normal people become terrified of criminals.
Shots were just fired. Police just came out and told us, and we're headed there right now.
They become terrified of their own government.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I want to play this video for you of Nikki Haley and explain to you why it is that you must vote for Donald Trump and why it is this woman should never be allowed anywhere near the seats of power. Reclaim the Net says, Nikki Haley says if she's made president, every social media user will be verified by their name for national security purposes. And we'll play that video for you.
When I get into office, the first thing we have to do, social media accounts, social media companies, they have to show America their algorithms. Let us see why they're pushing what they're pushing.
Okay, that I like, but carry on.
The second thing is every person on social media should be verified by their name. That's, first of all, it's a national security threat. When you do that, all of a sudden people have to stand by what they say, and it gets rid of the Russian bots, the Iranian bots, and the Chinese bots. And then you're going to get some civility when people know their name is next to what they say.
Accountability.
And they know their pastor and their family member is going to see it. It's going to help our kids, and it's going to help our country.
Okay, so the funny thing about that is she's completely wrong. This country is built on anonymous pamphleting and writing, and Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson and many others. So what she's doing is she's taking things that Elon Musk has pointed out, which are good ideas, the option to be verified and the choice to interact with those who are, and turning it into the government will force you to do it.
And then she immediately goes, first of all, she's like, everyone needs to have their name attached to their social security or to their social networking. First of all, it's a national security threat. Like, yeah, that would be a national security threat if you forced everyone to put their name on their social media.
No, but you get the point. Is
but she inverted it. She didn't mean it to sound like that.
The reason she's calling it a national security threat that is anonymous accounts is because that is their hard, you can't stop us, we don't need a vote justification. We are going to send a national security letter to X and force them to do it, to Facebook, et cetera, et cetera. They're going to make you do it.
The purpose of Minds, one of the main tenets of Minds is that anonymous social networking is a human right. In my opinion, I don't know if Bill's actually come out and literally said that. Social media company I founded in 2011 with Bill Ottman. You have to be able to. I didn't think about it so deeply before, but it's exactly like you said, man. Silence Dogood was Benjamin Franklin's first pen name. He couldn't get published in his brother's paper when he was like 14, so he made some fake middle-aged lady, and then he started getting published. And then, of course, Poor Richard's Almanac. He was a guy named Poor Richard, and he would seed like revolutionary content into the populace because he always, his whole life, he probably wanted to revolt against the king, but he wasn't able. If he said out loud, they would have cut his head off. So he had to use a pen name. And if the same thing in modern day, if it becomes tyrannical,
well,
you have no
especially
choice.
when there are people who feel like their anonymity allows them to operate in society because their views are not permitted. I mean, to confront. You'd have to start really unpacking what hate speech is in America if you really wanted to take away anonymous speech online and where the boundaries of free speech are. And that's what I think, I'm not totally against her justification of like, if you had to put your name by everything you said, maybe you would operate differently. Maybe that's good. But there are people who write, under pen names because they fear that they'll be targeted by a progressive attorney general who might go after their job or whatever else because they believe something that's not popular. It starts to be this thing where like, I just wonder what box we're opening, and I'm not against the idea of accountability online, but at what cost and what are we protecting?
And it's kind of ironic because Nikki Haley rails against China, just one of the many countries she probably wants to go to war with. But at the same time, I mean, this is the exact same type of police state that China is rightfully criticized for. So this is something that she wants to introduce. I mean, it's like she is on the wrong side of basically every single issue, which is almost impressive. She's like impressive batting average for just like the George Bush Republicans who basically killed the party for an entire generation.
We should just make it so that in order to pass a bill, the person who is proposing it has to enter legislation by combat.
Mm-hmm.
So
you have to literally force
Mark
the bill
Wayne
through.
Mullins is getting all this stuff through.
You've got to carry the bill passed through the gauntlet
of
Congress.
gladiators, yeah.
Yeah, and then the congressmen, they'll have paddles and they whack you on the butt.
Unironically enter in a new golden age for America. Have you guys seen all those studies where they look at how high testosterone and like gym attendance correlates with right-wing views?
We studied this on
yeah.
Ian.
It's amazing.
Within 24 hours, you'll feel the right wing seeping into you.
Right.
You start to work out.
Ian lifted the barbell one time and then dropped it and then started praying.
I become happy with myself when I'm physically healthy. And
you
that's part of
operate
like, maybe I want to conserve my life and my surroundings because I appreciate them more when I'm physically
I think that's true. I think it does give you it gives you a sense of value and purpose, which changes how you approach the world, which is very interesting. I guess what also
That would
stood
also
out
get rid of all the octogenarians that we have in Congress as well.
True.
Yeah, true.
They couldn't keep up.
There'd have the age categories. It's like 72 to 78.
No, they all fight.
No, they all-
Mark Wade Mullins. I guess the other thing.
Fight Mullins.
That'd be so funny. The other thing that stood out to me is that she said this is the first thing I do in office, and I guess my question to you guys would be, what would you want whoever gets elected to do? What should be the first thing they do when they get to office?
And
Firing people.
That's a great
Yes.
question. Something secretive that is big and changes a lot of stuff. But what she said about making all these social networks free their code, I don't agree with anymore. I think we start with TikTok because it's a foreign company and proof of concept. If they want to operate on U.S. shore, they have to free their software code, their algorithms. And then if that turns out that it's really great for society, then we can use that as a casus belli to cause Meta to open up their code.
Yeah, let me tell you. So we have social media people who work here at Timcast, and we have the semi-unwritten rules of various social media platforms when posting. And TikTok is the most insanely restrictive. Absolutely insane. So YouTube, surprisingly, the least. I should pause. Rumble is the least. X and Rumble are like, basically anything goes. Just you're good to go, and we love that. YouTube is actually one of the least restrictive, though they are fairly restrictive.
Yeah, and it's crazy because I've got the Blaze's YouTube channel suspended for an entire week because I'm not gonna say what I said about the Elliot page. I'll actually use the name, so I don't want to get your page suspended either. But yeah, that happened on YouTube, but it was for something that I feel like YouTube's more selective about than something like Facebook, which
YouTube actually does in some circumstances look at context. Facebook absolutely does not. And I'm not trying to defend YouTube. I think YouTube censorship is a problem, but Facebook is insanely bad. And TikTok is substantially worse.
It feels like Facebook relies a lot more on AI than Alphabet.
And there's like no legitimate appeals process. It takes forever. Whereas with YouTube, we actually have like reps we can contact at a certain level on YouTube. There's people who will work with you. Facebook doesn't care.
Yeah, they don't want you to appeal because they've made a decision.
And it's crazy. Like my channel, my page on Facebook got demonetized once for lies. An organization claimed that one of my videos was fake news, and so it triggered a hard demonetization. And my video that I put up was 100% factually correct. I reached out to the organization and I said, my video is correct. And they said, no, it's not. Here's your headline. And I said, the headline's a question. And the first sentence of the video is rejecting the claims made by people who are asserting this. And they were like, oh, we didn't actually watch it. So a third party flagged me to Facebook and got my money turned off. That's insane. That's what Facebook does. It's not even about their internal teams. It's about them letting leftist progressive activists and government agents. And I got to wonder, with this election integrity partnership stuff going on, I'm wondering if, maybe we should reach out to members of Congress who are working on this and the people we know who are working on it and ask them about what Facebook is doing with the Poynter Institute and the power they give to third parties to remove content they don't like.
But see, that's why the left always wins, and they're going to keep winning. I work with a ton of right-wing conservative nonprofits. I mean, people like TPUSA. We would never think, hang on, there's this huge company that has control of information. I should petition them so that I'm in charge of what people are allowed to post. Like, that would never enter into like 99% of conservatives' minds. The left not only think this, but they actually put it into action, and they insert themselves into roles of power very effectively. Unless
the subject is Israel.
Yes.
Then all of a sudden it's like everybody's just like then
it's like the mega Karens.
Yeah, right. Then it's just, I don't know what's going on.
That's the fascist bent in people when they're like, we got to use the private companies to control society.
Right.
And they'll use it through legislation or through funding through legislation. Yeah, I don't like when that happens. I kind of want to answer your question about what I would do if I became President Roe, but I don't have an answer. Yeah. Do you guys, what would you do?
Well, I like this tweet that Vivek put out the other day. I don't know if he said it would be day one, but I think it should be day one. Immediately fire half of like the DC bureaucrats or the civil servants.
Or just, transfer them.
I'm good with firing them. I think like if automatically there's half of them. I mean, obviously we could talk about like the economic I guess implications of that many people being out of a job. But if it's like if the federal government is so huge where we actually need to talk about the economic consequences of that many civil servants losing their jobs, then that's a problem in and of itself.
He was saying layoffs because that bypasses the restrictions. You can lay them off for budgetary reasons.
Right.
And yes, absolutely. And I would hope that Vivek, to the extent it is legally, humanly, and economically possible, maximizes those layoffs. There's no, you know what it is? So we were talking last night about schools, and I was saying like abolish the DOE and get rid of this broken system. We had Aaron Mate on, and he was arguing that I'm an exception to the rule. I'm successful. Not everyone can do that. And my argument is, if you think that there is no way to replicate in, my success in other people, then what's the point of school? Right. If school can't create a path towards success for people then what's the point of doing it? And his attitude was basically, there's a lot of good teachers who are in these schools, and this is my point. The government funds a project, hires a bunch of people, and then says, okay, this doesn't work, but we can't stop it now because we're addicted to it. We are economically addicted to this industry. If we stop funding schools, we're going to have hundreds of thousands of people out of work. We can't have it. The economy would collapse.
Also, because we didn't allow for any competition. I mean, there are private schools, there are homeschools, things like that. But obviously, predominantly, most people's money are tied up in their taxes, which then go to their public schools. So they rely on them. I mean, education in America is ultimately a failing business. So it should close. It's falsely kept alive.
And what Ron Paul said, and it was funny because when we had Ron on the show, I mentioned this to him and he was like, did I say that? He said of the war in, I think it was Afghanistan, they're saying we can't just withdraw because it will cause a bunch of problems. But as a doctor, I know if you prescribe the wrong medication and it is causing problems, you stop the medication. There's no excuse for saying we have to just keep doing it. We are addicted to these government programs. And the fear is, but if we terminate, we're going to lose all these jobs. Don't know. Don't care.
That was
And especially with education, we can see the outcomes, right? Test scores are going down. I mean, some of the places that have the highest per student funding have the worst results. And I'm someone who's very pro homeschooling, and the response is always like, oh, your kids aren't going to be able to read. You're not qualified. It's like, I mean, we see what the actual results are from kids who are in public schools that are failing them. It's really hard for it to be worse. Actual Justice Warrior Sean, he did a video where I think places in Baltimore, like there's a lot of schools were literally 0%.
Well,
proficiency.
Oregon just did away with their graduation requirements, and they're saying there are learning losses because of COVID, but also that means your system is pretty weak, that 3 years could I mean, students really suffered during COVID for a lot of reasons, but it also means that there was absolutely no effectiveness in online schooling or anything else. The teachers that were tasked with having to educate kids remotely couldn't do it. This means that our system is not adaptable. This is not proof that you guys are successful. And I think to Tim's medicine metaphor,
Ron
Paul.
Yeah.
If they're saying this is the thing you take to fix it, you go to public school. The thing is, doctors will then say, oh, you're having side effects from the medication I gave you. Instead of stopping it, they'll say, take 5 others, take this other one, take this other one, which is why, we get universal preschool and we get all these other programs that the government is saying we're not effective, but we're going to continue to fund ourselves until we figure out a way to keep this failing system up. And that's a disservice to students and their parents. If you gave them, this is why I love school choice. If you gave them the opportunity to spend their monies in a way that better suited their children's needs, because there's no way bureaucrats in Washington know children better than their own parents, they would probably be more effective.
Well, that's the problem, though. The Department of Education and the public school system, it exists to benefit teachers, to benefit administrators. It's not actually to the benefit of the students, and definitely not the benefit of the parents.
I think one of the things you said, Hannah Claire, exactly that is pretty profound, is that the problem that the school, the education system, the Department of Education, is that they have a monopoly. There's no real viable option if it does shut down. Like there's not another system where people can just go get jobs there and bring their kids over there, and there should be, because the government monopolies are just as dangerous as private sector monopolies.
This is what I saw in Venezuela. When you went to go buy a cell phone, there were like 6 to 8 stations. I go to T-Mobile in the United States. I walk in, there's a guy, and he's like, how can I help you? I say, I want a phone. He's like, okay. He gets his tablet out, and he's like, which phone do you want? He starts typing it all in. Here's your number, and okay, it's going to cost this. So I swipe the card, and it's kind of annoying, and then you're done. In Venezuela, they had to create fake jobs for the sake of propping up their fake economy, which didn't work, obviously. So they're mandated to have a person who gets the phone, a person who asks you what kind of phone you want, a person who deals with your phone plan, a person who takes the money, a person who writes down the bill. Like you walk in, they say, how can I help you? I would like to buy a new phone. Okay, let me fill out this form for you. Here you go. And go wait in that line. Then you go wait in another line. There's another person there. And which phone would you like to buy? Okay, fill out this form and then go wait over here. Then a guy takes the form from you. Then he says, okay, now go wait over there. Then so it's insane. That's what we're doing right now in this country. And I think you made a good point. I think you brought this up, that the government created a monopoly on schools by mass funding it. This is what happens when the government guarantees the income. It's almost impossible to compete. But then you'll see things like FedEx, UPS, and the Postal Service. Clearly, people don't like using the Postal Service for whatever reason.
Right. And you get private schools, you get homeschools, you get co-ops. People do have innovation, especially when they see that the system is broken. But it makes me wonder, you'll have teachers who are promised if you work in a public school for X number of years, we'll pay off your student loan debt, which we have also given you because we're the government and we're trying to help you. And I would wonder if it would be more interesting to see those people go off and start, Montessori schools in more places or explore, different opportunities with the degree that they have. I think good teachers are really valuable. It's not to shame all of them, but the government just wants you to stay in its broken system, and it's willing to take you down with it if you're a teacher.
And I think you're right. A good teacher, a competent teacher is going to flourish even without the public school and the teachers union safety net. And we see that with charter schools and private schools. And there are even, I guess, industrious teachers who are creating their own homeschool curriculums that could be applied to different homeschool pods. Like there's a desperate need for teachers who are competent, but I don't think we do those teachers any service by subsidizing the incompetent ones.
And the government doesn't reward teachers' entrepreneurship.
Right.
It just beats them back into submission as much as it can until they, eventually establish something, which is not good.
Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.